Hello guys and welcome to Booysens Beyond. Welcome back, and I'm happy to be speaking to you again today. I know we've been not vlogging per se as much lately, but we are glad to be back with you. We finished our series on South Africa for now. We'll be returning to our home country in more or less a month, and we can't wait to go back and to show you more of its beauty and to capture it. We feel like there's still so much to explore and to show you guys that we really can't wait. So please subscribe and you'll be able to see that in the near future. Guys, today I'm here to tell you a little bit more about how I plan a trip. Not all of these will apply to your trip specifically, but I hope that it helps you to think of a logical order to do it in and just to make sure that you don't really miss anything. Now, the first step is obviously the most important, and that is the location. Now, there's a few factors that will influence this. Hopefully it will really be one of the locations that's on your bucket list, but it's important to consider budget. Is it an expensive location, for instance Norway or Sweden, or is it a really cheap place, for instance like Thailand could be, I guess. But that will definitely determine if you have the money to visit that location. For instance, when we were in Europe in the beginning of the year, we really wanted to see the Northern Lights, but to visit one of those countries was just so far out of reach, and it would have been so expensive to get there and back, and for the accommodation that we had to leave that off our list. But yeah, that's definitely important, and of course the flight tickets to the location will determine that as well. For South Africans, there's multiple trips going to Zanzibar, and the flights can be really cheap. But for instance, to go to South America, the flights can really have a huge impact on your finances. So definitely keep that in mind. And I mean, the countries will always be there. If you know you can't afford to go to a specific place, don't really try to stretch your money really thin, or else you won't really have the experience that you wanted from the trip if you have to check your every single dime and coin. Then the second step is to decide what time you're gonna go, the date specifically, and the length of your stay. Now, I understand that many people only have 2 weeks in a year vacation or 3 weeks in a year vacation, and it's sort of a set time sometimes, so you might not really have a choice within that. But if you do have a choice, it's important to check the time that you can go or want to go with the season of the location when you're going in, if it's summer, winter, or if there's any important holidays in that location, and if that will impact your finances as well. For instance, if you're visiting America on the 4th of July, or you want to fly out on the 4th of July, or just before, just after, whatever, the flights will be more expensive, and accommodation during those times. So definitely make sure that you check the time that you want to do your trip in, combined with the location that you've decided on. The third step would also combine location and time, and that would be that if you're doing a multiple location trip within a location, meaning that you might go to Europe and want to visit different cities, different countries even, or even if you're visiting one country but you want to visit 3 or 4 parts of or you want to visit 3 or 4 locations within that country, then you can decide how much days do you want to spend in each specific city or area. So have a timeline of that. So what I would do is I make an Excel spreadsheet on my laptop or computer, and I would start from the beginning and sort of do it in a logical way. So I decide on the different cities I want to visit, like we did with our Euro trip, for instance, Czech Republic, Cologne in Germany, Amsterdam, France, whatever, and then do it logically, have a rhythm to it, that you're not like jumping around zigzagging through a country, because that will just definitely add to your transportation costs. Try to visit locations that's closer to each other in a chronological order, and of course then deciding how much time you want to spend in that location. If you know you want to see a lot of things there, then set out more dates. If it's a place that you only want to see 1 or 2 attractions specifically, and there's other places where you want to spend more time, then decide on that type of order you want to do them in and the time you want to spend in each location. Then step number 4 is quite important before you really start planning anything in your trip. Check that your passport is valid for the time if you're going overseas. Check that your passport is valid, and usually this is sort of a set standard that after the date that you want to come back to your home country, your passport should still be valid for 6 months. And then if that is not the case with your passport, make sure to apply for it in advance so that you will have it when you want to go on your trip. So step number 5 sort of goes into the passport. That is that you have to be sure to check if you need visas for the country or countries that you want to visit, and then see what the process entails, how much time that would take, and definitely make sure that you have enough time to do that, because that can really be a timeless thing. For instance, when we went to Europe, we're from South Africa, so we needed to apply for a Schengen visa, and I think that took about 3 weeks. It was over Christmas and New Year's time, and we just really couldn't do it at a different time. So just definitely be sure to take that into account when you're planning your trip. The 6th step would be to see what licensing or car requirements you have if you're doing a cross-border overland trip, or if you're deciding that you want to hire a vehicle in the country where you're going to. For instance, if you're going to America, do you need an international permits license? Will they accept the license from your country? You know, those types of things. And if you're doing an overland trip, for instance in Africa, each border has different requirements for your vehicle, and make sure that you have everything you need. They can be quite strict, and that can really influence and actually ruin your trip if you're not allowed to go into a specific country. Then the 7th step, here is the fun part. For me, if I'm doing a multi-location trip, then I start planning the accommodation and transport from the beginning, and I take it from there in a systematical order. The reason why I do this is sometimes you might not consider that a bus ride, or even if you're driving, that could actually take 1 night away from your accommodation. And if you book accommodation before and you just book it one day after the other, and then actually there's 1 night in there where you're in a bus, then you're just wasting your money and you'll be having 1 less day in that location than you were planning on. So definitely start it from the beginning. And the one thing I want to mention is if you're applying for visas, then we usually don't book our flights until our visas are approved. The reason for this is flights are really expensive. You usually have to pay the full amount for them, and then if you're not approved for your visa, then you can lose all that money. So for accommodation and for transportation, I mean like train rides or buses, those types of things, you usually pay a deposit and you can get some of it back if you're not able to go on the trip the time that you planned. If you're doing an overland trip, definitely take into consideration that there can be rough roads or that border crossings can take up a lot of your time. So definitely just take that into account also when you're planning trips. Sometimes you might just have to stay over just across the border just before it, get through the border the early morning, and then go to the location that you originally planned on. For accommodation, we like using bookings.com, hotels.com, Hostel World, and Airbnbs. We really feel that bookings.com internationally usually has really good offers on accommodation, and we actually really like Airbnb. The only problem that we find, or the only thing that will deter me from booking through Airbnb is sometimes I feel bad if I know we're going to be in a city coming in late at night. Then I usually don't like to bother a family or people coming in late at night. And the other problem is that Airbnbs usually are more in cities, and the type of traveling that we do, we really like to be more in nature and outside of the cities. But we also use safarinow.com for travel in Southern Africa, and Lekker Slaap for travel in South Africa specifically. but whichever one you use, I mean, that's what's easiest for you. If you have any site that's really focused in a specific country or that you really like, please comment below for others to see and for us to see. We love to know about awesome websites or apps that we can use when we're traveling to different countries that's maybe a little bit more specified or specialized in that country. For transportation, I really can suggest a lot of sites that you can use. I mean, we really like to drive ourselves, so when we're traveling in South Africa and Southern Africa, we just drive ourselves. When we were visiting Europe, we used Go Euro, I mean, like all the time. That is really such a great app, such a great site, and I've read a blog about it, apps that we use planning our Euro trip. I'll let that link down below. And Go Euro just is great to set the location that you want to go, the date, and then it gives you options for buses, trains and flights. So that's really cool. And I mean, then it sets the time as well, the duration of it, so you can really compare that very easily, like what would be the best option for you in that specific scenario. Okay, then step 8 would be, if it's necessary in your case, make your visa appointment. The reason why I'm only mentioning it now is that usually if you make visa appointments, then you have to have all this information that we've covered up to now in order to get your visa. You have to say where you're gonna be, how you're gonna get there. Usually they ask you for what your financial support gonna be like, if you have your own finances, if someone's gonna pay for you. If someone's inviting you to come to the country, then they usually have to write a letter for you and send some proof of citizenship and maybe from their address as well. So yes, now it's the time to make your visa appointment. And again, make sure that you have enough time before your trip, that you've gotten all this information and that you can apply for your visa in time. Step number 9, book your flight. This is the most exciting part for me always. Your visas have been approved, you've gotten them, your trip has been planned, and now you can book your flights and get that final confirmation, breathe out and start packing and planning all the fun things that you're gonna do. Enjoy this time, and that's basically the beginning of the end of planning. Step number 10 is just actually a little few things that you might need to do. For us in South Africa, these are things that we need to do usually, just as before, like a pre-trip thing. Print out all the information that you will need for your trip. Technology is great, but it can let you down. So usually for your visa, you would have had to print out a lot of these things already. So you can take that packet of paper with you and keep it in your backpack, just in case somewhere you can find your confirmation on your phone, or your phone's died or something like that. It's just really a fail-safe to have with you. And also have copies of your passport, your identity of your country, whatever, and if possible have them certified for in case you lose your passport. For us living in South Africa, maybe for you too, we have to let our bank know that we're going to be in a different country, and the duration of our stay there and all that things. It can be a bit of a pain in the butt, but that's what they require. Or else they can deactivate your card. They have done that to us while we were at the airport in Heathrow, I think. And yeah, it's really inconvenient. So just maybe let your bank know if you need to do that, so that the fraud department won't think that your card's being used suspiciously. And then one last thing that I sometimes need to do and still fail, my cell phone agency still fails me sometimes, is make sure that the roaming has been activated. Some cell phone networks, I guess, worldwide do it automatically, others you have to let them know. So for instance, I have to let my cell phone agency know in South Africa, but maybe you don't need to do that. So yeah, then just pack your stuff and go to a trip. We hope that you enjoy it, and we hope that you found this video valuable. And as always, we really appreciate your time for watching our videos, and let us know what you think in the comments. And please subscribe to our channel. We are really trying to build our YouTube channel, and it would mean so much to us if you can just subscribe. If you like our content, of course. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, blessed weekend.